Thank you. I'd like to call to order the first meeting of environmental concerns and real property for 2023. Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, please? Thank you, Supervisor Drossy, second by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion, changes? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Thank you. All right. Ms. Delory, you're up, please.
Okay, so action agenda. The first thing is a resolution request to establish a petty cash fund for the Real Property Tax Service Department. All of these years, I mean, I've been here 27 plus years. We've never had this in our office, even though we have money, a money bag, and we kind of stretch out doing our deposits until we get enough to be able to have money to leave in the bag. And it's just kind of made it pretty complicated right now. I think I mean, it's only like $15, but I'm floating $15 of my own money in the bag just to have something in that bag to be able to move on and be able to do deposits. So I would like to be able to set that up to be able to do $40 to have it as a constant in the bag. So the deposits can be done shortly after the first of the next month.
Moved by Supervisor Leggett, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion?
Does this need to go to finance?
According to Rob Lynch, he said, no, just this resolution, because I thought, where am I getting this money from? Does it have to come out of contingency? And he says, no, it's just something that comes out of the general fund. And it's almost like they write a check or they set me up like as a vendor and it goes to me and then the money is accounted for monthly that way.
Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, I'd like to know what the county has done to reimburse you for the interest on your money that we borrowed.
Nothing at all. No, nothing, but it's okay. It was easier to do it that way and be able to move on. So it's only been a couple months that I threw that money in, just because at the end of the year, we get $1,000 checks in from bank funds for escrow files, and it's hard. You can't just leave those sitting in the money bag and waiting 2 months to be able to deposit. They want, it deposited and cleared. So
Great.
Anything
Sounds
else?
like an easy solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that. And Ms. Allen advises that it may need to go to finance. So we'll figure that out and
okay.
refer it if necessary.
Looks like that.
I'm fairly confident that we've sent these through.
Okay.
We did one last for, I think, health services, and I'm fairly confident it went through finance before it got to the board.
Okay, totally. Okay with that.
Without objection, I'll extend privilege of the floor to our chairman.
Yeah, if I just, wouldn't it be better if you had $100 or no?
I don't need that
You
one.
don't get many.
No, it's really, we've gone online a lot for things, so we don't get as much stuff coming in, but we get survey maps being filed. People do still come in and purchase maps from us, property record cards, stuff like that. So I really don't feel that I need to go to that large of amount of money.
Great. Anything further? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you. And then that's our only action item. So we have a couple of discussion items. Go ahead.
So the first discussion item is a recently signed assembly bill, the A10155-A. This is in regards to the volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers. So this was also passed through the Senate as well. I just attached only the assembly bill for you guys. I do have a copy of the Senate if anybody wants to see it. With this being passed, there is some question because I think a lot of people are misinformed. I did hear our chairman talk earlier in one of the DPW meetings a little bit about this, but when this, or if I should say, it goes through, it has to be passed by a local law at the county. If the county wants to do this, and it is up to 10%. If the towns go forward with doing this, they also have to pass a local law. And then I believe if the fire wants to offer this, they have to actually pass a resolution. And if the school wanted to offer it, they would have to pass a resolution as well.
What?
It would be up to 10% exemption off of their assessment. So in some homes that are on the lake, that could be a huge amount of an exemption.
It would be
So
costly
it's-
for us.
It's in the town of Queensbury as well.
Can I just clarify? This is an exemption for the firefighters, active firefighters who live and own property in the community where they serve.
Volunteer.
Volunteer,
Thank
What
you.
it is.
volunteer, as well as ambulance as well.
So it's not. It's a pretty narrow category of people, I think. And it's still
It
up to
is.
the municipality to decide whether or not to offer the exemption
Correct. They would have to do the
for their
same.
municipal tax.
Correct. They would
Okay.
have to pass a local law. But please bear in mind that currently there is, New York State offers an income tax exemption. And I don't know how many of them even realize that that's there. Hopefully all of them do. It's not something that we would have had to have ever put out to them. But if they are claiming the income tax exemption, they cannot claim this property tax exemption.
Correct.
It's one or the other. But I believe that there is discussion of them back at the Assembly and Senate level, maybe reworking this or looking into possibly amending that. But currently on both of the applications, which I do have copies of, there is language on the back of them that this is for the new exemption, and it says, if you receive this exemption, you cannot claim a New York State income tax credit for the same volunteer service. However, if there's multiple firefighters in the same house, a husband and a wife, one can claim the income tax exemption and one can get the property tax exemption. So, but it does, again, it also has language on the back of the income tax form that you would fill out when doing your income taxes. So, it is just something that I really wanted to bring up and talk about, and see how the committee feels about this and moving forward with something like this. I have discussed it briefly with our county attorney's office. If it is something that the county wants to consider, our county attorney as well as myself, we could work together, and maybe coming up with a local law. If it is something that the county would want to offer. And then we could always bring it back once, we put something like that together.
What's the pleasure of the committee? Would you like the county attorney's office to do something, or you want to think about it some more?
Well,
Supervisor Leggett?
if I could, I guess maybe
Go
I'd
ahead.
offer up as the first question is interest, right? We
Right.
didn't prep anything just to see if there's an interest in doing something.
That's what I'm asking. Are you guys interested in them working on it, looking at it into it further?
Yeah.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the firefighters showed up at the town board meeting the other night in the town of Chester advocating for this. I am not sure if they were aware of the either or the exemption. I ran the numbers in the town of Chester, a house over $400,000 would be about the equivalent of the $200. So in the town of Chester, there's 35 eligible members altogether. I don't know how many would hit that particular thing. I would say go for it, for the county to proceed.
I also try to get lists from our fire departments through our emergency services officer, Anne Marie. She did try to get something for me. I had gone by something that Lewis County does, and they actually have a sheet that they drafted, which I drafted a similar one, where the chief or someone in the fire department would actually have to certify the members that are eligible. We're not going to just take a list, and because I want somebody to actually be held accountable for that, for us to be able to offer this exemption. And she responded with, the fire departments did not want to fill out the certification forms until an actual law was passed. So I couldn't really get you an idea of numbers because they would not give me any names. They would not give me any of the information so that I could actually look myself to see what people were assessed for, whereas what the impact would actually be. So I was hoping to have been able to provide you with more of that information. But she did give me a list of, she says the best we could do was a count of eligibles and not all departments responded. I know that I just heard from, I don't remember her name. I don't know if she even gave it to me, a girl from Lake George this morning.
Lori,
Who, what,
Lori.
Lori, from the fire department?
Oh, you're talking.
Yeah, no, somebody from the fire department. And she was going to forward me something today of people that she had put together. So that is something, you know, that if I had more information, I would have loved to have been able to provide it. But with people refusing to give me the information until a local law is passed, you really don't have any way of knowing how many people this is going to affect and how big the impact is going to be on the county. So unless somebody, possibly our chairman, who I know is a fireman, could maybe reach out to some of these fire departments and let them know how crucial it is to get us that information so that we could have a better idea of what the impact would be for those numbers on the county.
Anybody else on the committee want to express a position? Supervisor McGowan?
This is a really good topic because I know town of Queensbury, you know, we've restructured and turned around. I know we have the North County EMS. You know, I read the Chronicle and other the Mirror and stuff, and I see ads looking for enticements to get volunteers to come in. This is a you know, a critical point, and the fine point is that it's increasing some taxes in some towns and some areas to take care of our volunteers, you know, mainly ambulance, but if not, you know, fire. So in return, you know, to me, it's I hate to say it sounds like 6 1 half dozen the other. Either we do this to help increase the involvement in volunteering and people coming in, or we turn around and have to raise the taxes to pay for them. So, you know, so them getting a tax credit, you know, so, you know, I think I could sell this either way to, you know, to my constituents. So I'd like to really, if it's possible, I know we do the public comment, but I know Kevin's been, our chairman has been involved in fire department for a Stone's age. So maybe he can help us out too, but I'm okay with this.
On that note, let's see if Chairman Garrity has anything to say.
Well, first off, there's a lot in the law that needs to be flushed out. People saying there's 35 people in a fire department eligible, it is not 100% accurate. And I looked at our roster, we only had 21, eight of our 21 members would qualify. And there's a lot more to this, and the either or, a lot of people jumped on this without the either or until I talked to Lexi. And we got the forms, they didn't even know it, and I brought it up last night to some of the chiefs at the chiefs and officers meeting, so there's a lot more of this to be fleshed out. And I did the math on my own assessment in Warrensburg. Either way, it doesn't pay for me to sign up for this property tax exemption. I get more off my state income tax by taking the $200. And I'm not even sure a lot of the people know they can do the IT 245 and get $200 off their state income tax. I don't know that. But so there's a lot more to this, and I think people are throwing out numbers that I don't think are going to be accurate. And then somebody has to certify this. You know, it's not a giveaway. And I think all of a sudden they looked at it as a giveaway. You got to be very, very careful. The same with the awards program. When they put LoSAP in, you know, that's not a giveaway either. So there's a lot more to this. I don't think the impact would be as great as you think it would. But it's like I explained, if you give it to this group, some other group is going to make up the difference, and that's the same with all these things, so. And, that's all I would caution, there's a lot more work to be done on this, and, you know, whether you live in the jurisdiction, if people live out of a jurisdiction, but may belong to a volunteer fire company where they don't live. That question was raised too, I don't think they qualify,
They
so
do not.
a lot more to this, a lot into weeds here that needs to be flushed out.
Yeah.
Right. So just a thought to keep it on pending items
Mhm.
while we sort
Right.
through some of it. Go
'Cause
ahead.
it does not have to, I mean, it doesn't have to happen right now, you know, I mean, we still have time to research it further. And, you know, look a little further into it. If I could get some of these fire departments to maybe provide me with a list of who they believe would be eligible with the information that I was asking for, that would be helpful. The big thing is you have to be a member, and that's something that would have to be in the local law. And it has to be between 2 or 5 years of services. So somewheres along the way, we would have to pick how long of what we want. Do we want to go with 2? Do we want to go with 5? We want to go with 3 or 4? You know, as to what we set that they would have to be a member for. Can't be somebody that just signed up 2 weeks ago. They're not going to get this. So, you know,
Still some questions.
there
Attorney
definitely is.
Elman?
And fortunately, there is no pending deadline, so, we have a period of months. One, to work through it internally, and 2, to see what other municipalities in the state of New York are doing. And if the legislature revisits the legislation and modifies it some. Practically, there's decisions that every municipality must make. And my concern is the inconsistencies that could exist between the county, the city, the towns, those different levels, because the 2 key ones are how many years of service to qualify, how many years of certified service to qualify, which, as was stated, is 2, 3, 4, or 5. So the county could say 3 years, but one town could say 2 years, another town could say 4 years. The second is the percentage. It doesn't have to be 10%, it's up to 10%. So my hope would be just to plant that thought that if there's a desire to move forward in the future, that hopefully there can be some consistency encouraged at the different levels within the county.
Good. But yes, Supervisor Jurassic.
One question for clarification. The town cannot do this independently. We have to have, the county has to.
No.
Towns can do it independently, and each town has to.
Okay.
As well as each school. I know I've only been questioned by one school. Bolton School did reach out to me because they had somebody broach them at the school and they were unaware of it. So I sent her the, copies of the bills that were passed, and I think that they're looking at it, but I don't know what they're gonna do with it. That's a big thing that a lot of general people do not understand when it comes to exemptions, is that if you give these 5 an exemption, the other 50 are gonna have to make it up. Everybody always has to make up that exemption. So yes, exemptions can be beneficial. But do bear in mind that you still have to raise the same levy. So in order to get that, if you just gave these exemptions to these 5, you got to still raise that same amount. You're going to raise your tax rate.
Mhm.
So please just keep that in mind, that that's what exemptions do.
So I see a hand in the back. If without objection, I'll extend privilege of the floor to Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My sense is, and I was part of an EMS discussion a few years ago, there existed an issue where we couldn't get volunteers, EMS and fire. If that's still the case, then this is an incentive for us to get people. And not only is it an incentive, it's an insurance policy for every constituent that exists in that town or fire district or whatever. Because if they don't have the people that can volunteer, then we may not get someone to help us when we need help with a fire or with a medical issue. So my own personal perception is, I don't care how it happens, whether it's done by the town, whether it's done by the town providing funds to the EMS, or whether it's through some tax incentive like this.
I think we should be doing something to help support the staff that volunteered their time to help us feel comfortable and safe in our communities. Thank you.
Okay, so I think it sounds like we'll keep it on. We'll do some more research, try to get some consistency, hopefully message out there to the county and the other municipalities.
I'll just make one
Attorney
last
Allen,
point,
yes.
just so everybody hears it. Because in enacting it, I read the current statute as then requiring a lifetime exemption for members with 20 years of certified service, as long as they remain within the jurisdiction of the county.
Correct.
So you can move between a municipality if they have 20 years. But that's an exemption, and it's a 10% exemption that then continues for their lifetime, and in some circumstances, their spouse's lifetime.
I thought that that was one of the pieces that was optional, that as you adopt a local law, you say whether or not the 20-year lifetime exemption applies or not.
I've been focusing on the word shall, that's in the paragraph. I mean, and I don't mean that to, I apologize if that sounds wrong.
No.
It's very new. But it says shall be granted the 10% exemption as authorized by the section. So again, it's just another piece. We're talking about the immediate need. But there's this longer term cost. That's going to be a tail on any local law that the county moves forward.
Supervisor Leggett?
And Madam Chairwoman, can we have what a timeline is on this? Obviously, it's not going to hit a March 1st roll. Would this be at best effective for taxes coming out in January of 2025?
Correct. If we pass it before March 1st of 2024.
Okay. So we have time, a few
Yes.
months. Just while we're on the topic of exemptions, I know I didn't ask you to put this on the agenda, but could you mention about the senior exemption that was
Yes,
recently?
you can.
I don't know if
So
it was recently
it
passed.
also
Okay.
was in December, signed by the governor, which would be Assembly Bill 1980 or Senate Bill 8570. Oh, wait, maybe I'm not talking about the same thing. This is the second notice. Is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's what I was, but I wasn't sure we're on the same page. So there is something out there about second notices. I don't know if any of your assessors have broached you. Some have. I've also pushed the assessors at their local association meeting that they really needed to discuss it with their town supervisors, as well as maybe the town attorneys for an opinion on this, as well as possibly the town boards. But there is, in this bill, it does talk about a second notice. Second copy of the notice required by the subdivision shall be sent 30 days prior to the filing deadline, which would mean by January 28th, this would need to be sent out. Some towns were jumping on board and saying absolutely not. And then I had some towns that were yes. And then it took some in between the convincing that, you know, you really should do this because it does say shall. So if you have not heard from your successor, I'm not sure if you have. You are, okay. So because some were opposing it, and I was like, you know, you're all stating that you're looking out for your seniors. Then if that's the case, you should consider looking out for your seniors by sending the second notice. I mean,
Not
there
to
is,
mention, it is a law that was signed by our governor indicating you shall send the notice.
right. So,
I think one thing that we talked about was that if you are choosing not to send it out, that you should at least be putting that in your town board minutes.
Correct.
Letting your seniors know, or put it on your website,
right, no, yeah, that was a big
put
thing.
it on Facebook.
You know, it really, something should go out. And I know some, like I know down in the town of Monroe, they have a newsletter that goes out monthly. They were doing it that way and claiming because it goes to everybody. The problem of it is, with this law, It's supposed to go to every residential property in your town, whether the people are local, they live in Connecticut, California, wherever. If it's residential property, all residential property is supposed to receive the second notice. So I know that it becomes costly and it's really kind of an unfunded mandate that the governor put on us last minute in December by passing this. So I do know that there is already opposition. Before this was passed, the governor, I believe, had reached out to the Association of Towns for an opinion. And the Association of Towns opposed it. I believe the Association of Counties also ended up opposing it and sending her that opposition. I believe the New York State Assessors Association also sent in their opposition. And now that this still went through, I know that the directors already have drafted some opposition. And our NICEC guy is going to get all over that. So I don't know, it should be done at this point, but I think it's costly for all towns to be doing this. I looked at it on a county level and it was going to be expensive. And on top of it, as of the 22nd, what's today? Yeah, so there was a postage increase. So if you don't have your notices out, now you're paying more money. So it's costly, but it is a law.
Supervisor Trossi.
Just a clarification, I was under the impression we had till January 31st, but you said January 28th.
There's only 28 days in February, and March 1st is by law the day that they have to have their exemptions in by. So that's why I said January 28th. You should have it out by January 28th to give them their 30 days. Because it says shall be sent 30 days prior to the filing deadline. Filing deadline is the
March
1st of March.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that was just a little FYI out there. The second discussion item I'd like to bring up is for an environmental matter with respect to the septic replacement funding. Last year, we did send out a letter. I signed it as chair of the septic inspection and transfer committee. I would like consensus from the committee to send another letter to Commissioner Sagos. This is requesting additional funding for the septic inspection program to come to Warren County for Lake George, for properties on Lake George.
So how much do we receive?
Just give me a second. Ethan helped to work up some of the new numbers. In 2022, we received 635,000. That was on top of the 2021 distribution of 340,000. And from my discussions with Ethan Gaddy in planning, we have already allocated all of that money. It might not be out the door yet, but there's tons of interest, lots of properties, lots of property owners asking. And
So what do they have to submit in order to qualify for the money?
the planning department has a little protocol of things that they have to submit. I don't know all of the details right now. We can have them come and talk to us about it. They have basically been taking everyone in the door who qualifies. There's no qualifies as far as your geographic property. There isn't any other distinguishing criteria. You don't have to prove financial need. You just need to prove you're on the lake and that you are in the process of replacing your septic system.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Are they just hiring a contractor or they got an engineer looking at it or?
You know, I'm pretty sure that they are requiring engineer sign off on all the new systems.
I'll talk to Ethan.
I know it has been causing a little bit of trouble because people do not like to follow up with Ethan to get them all the documentation they are asking for. So it's a little bit rigorous. We're trying not to be overly complicated, but they need to show that the system has been replaced and that they've spent the money or have the invoices that they're going to
Yeah,
pay for the,
Absolutely, you're giving away $1 million.
yeah. So I would like to send a similar letter to Commissioner Sagos, just saying we continue to have a need for this money and that we would like you to give us more. It's basically,
And I'll move that motion.
okay. Thank you, Supervisor McGowan. Thank you. I don't think we
also
need a
wanted to say
motion.
something.
We'll just, if the committee is okay with me, I will send that out.
Okay.
Okay, Supervisor McGowan, then I'll,
Yes, being familiar with it, a lot of times when the first round went out there, people said, hey, I'm gonna jump on this. And unfortunately, because there was one that I was actually working on that was approved, had plans and was ready to go, but then there was no money.
Mhm.
And then he couldn't wait. We ended up putting the system in, and then right after we were done, we got the second allot of money. So fortunately, it was able that the state said it could be, dated. It had to be after the first round. That you couldn't predate it before then that it was done. So, but being done because it was upgrading. So no, I think this is
Yeah.
very important. It's gone very well and it really helps. And if you can get up, because some of these systems are expensive and it's a nice move and the state can help us out here. I think it's a great idea to send that letter out. So thank you.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, Chairwoman, does Washington County have a similar program for their side of the lake?
They have chosen not to set up a program, so they are not getting any of the money from the state. It is quite a bit of work for our planning department to run the program. But we have a giant waiting list of people.
Mhm.
The money is needed and we are getting it out the door.
So they're all in Warren County?
Yes,
It's a lot.
I do believe that Essex County has a program and they receive funding, but I don't know the dollar amount. Okay, good. Then I will do that. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I'll call the question on the motion that is on the table for that to authorize me to sign a letter requesting more funding. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. Okay, and the last pending item
Yes.
on our agenda.
So I know back in November, we discussed a little bit on the Mullins property and for future use of the property for tax purposes, because I wanted you all to be aware that the foreclosure tax sale exemption would be coming off. However, since what I included in your packet was just kind of a little briefing of dollar amounts. I have since had a conversation with the Queensbury Town Assessor. And we talked about possibly making this property exempt. Since we don't have this property listed for sale at this time, she would be willing to put that exemption code on there for us. And I think that would probably be a good idea, because it would save Kevin Hajos's department probably about $1,600 that he doesn't have budgeted for taxes. And then at maybe a later time, we can talk about this some more to try to make a decision with what the county wants to do with this property. Because I know right now there is no actual plans or decisions for the county to really do anything with it. So I just wanted to make you all aware that we can put that exemption code on it. And that would at least take away the concerns for tax purposes.
Well, I think we
Thank you,
definitely
Lindsay.
should do that. What happened to the plan that Queensbury wanted to?
It has not gone any further. I know that I was having the county attorney's office look into what the information is out there for when the bike path was originally put together to see if this could be even merged into that. Because realize that a lot of that bike path used to be railroad property. So when this was set up, there may have been some type of federal funds involved. And if that's the case, then you can't just merge something in unless. So we're still looking into that to try to find some more paperwork on that, on the bike path. And see what we can come up with.
So I think this leaves available all options are open to us. It keeps it in county ownership. It's not for sale. And we can.
At a later date, we can also decide to possibly sell it again, at a later date that this won't affect that. But, right now I'm trying to figure out something so that I know it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but still, when you don't have that money budgeted in your,
Money's money.
No, sounds fair. You need a second on Dennis's motion?
Well, I can take a motion like we did last time, that this is the consensus of the committee. I do want to recognize Supervisor Stroud. I will extend the privilege of the floor before we take a vote on that motion.
Yes, thank you. A year ago or so, the Board of Supervisors passed a resolution showing support for this piece of property, the Mullen property or 275 Bay Road. Shows support in a resolution passed by the consensus of the board for this to go forward, in the sense that let's apply for grant money and see what can be done. Everyone at that time knew of the conceptual development potential that Labella did gratis for us, and it showed a park and parking facility for the Warren County Bikeway. Now, that seems to be a very popular and most useful way of using this former Mullen site. And I would like to see it go forward. And it was suggested that if we put that property in with the Warren County Bikeway property, we don't have to worry about taxes. And Lexi even suggested that's one path that we could take. I think that's the most reasonable path. Just melt it, just put this in with the county bikeway property and it's tax-free.
What happened to the grant?
Supervisor Dickinson.
That's a good question. They're working on the grant. Ethan thinks there's great grant opportunities for this. Because of what it is, it's part of an alternative transportation thing. Aaron Frankenfeld from the AGFTC also think it's a great grant opportunity, a proposal, because it all works. What you're doing is you're providing the community and visitors to the community a facility that I think will be memorial for decades to come. And in talking with city officials and things like that, they support this idea too, because it kind of works as a hub thing. As we're trying to interconnect the trail system, this particular location works out quite well. And as you know, they're looking at providing bike lanes down Bay Street, which Bay Street, as you know, this is right next to the property line between Queensbury and Glens Falls. And so it will work very well for the connection of the Coles Woods trails to here, and then in turn to the Warren County Bikeway. Anybody that wants to attend downtown events will use the bikeway lanes that are being proposed for Bay Street. It's just such an excellent location. You've got 300 feet, I think it's 300 feet along the railroad, the former railroad, now the bikeway. It just all makes perfect sense. So how do we avoid the taxes? Lexi told me that you just melt this into the Warren County Bikeway. Thank you.
John.
Thank you. So I do want to note for the record that there is a bike path parking lot up the way a little bit north of this that is also in Queensbury, north of Sprinkles. And that Lexi checked is not a separate tax map lot. It was not merged into the bike path. So while we figure out the details of how to make that work, Lexi has found an alternative solution, and we have a motion on the table for her to ask for the exemption from the taxes, which would keep it not taxed while we determine future plans.
That's a good idea.
All right, I'm going to call the question. Oh, sorry. Supervisor Dickinson, did you make a motion?
I think you did, and I seconded it.
Probably to
Have
adjourn.
it? Yeah, thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please say to authorize Lexi to ask for the exemption.
Aye.
All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries. Yes, you may.
So if Ethan from planning wants to reach out to me, or, you know, when he gets information, more information on the grant, if he wants to reach out to me, it is something that I can bring back to committee at a later date for further discussion. So I had not heard any of that from Ethan. So, you know, if he wants to, when he gets that information in place, we can definitely look at it in the future as to doing something more with it.
Okay.
Okay, and privilege of the floor, public comment. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Dickinson, McGowan, thank you all.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Aye.